Good morning and welcome to the Student Hub Live, the Open University's online, interactive, live digital platform. My name's Karen Foley and I'm going to be hosting today's session, and we've got a great programme lined up for you. The theme of today's session is getting ready for module start and making sure that you have a really solid preparation for that. So we're going to cover things like fitting it all in and time planning, being academic, reading and note-taking, staying well and studying well. But first we're going to look at your study space mentally and physically. Now we've got a lot of new students here today, so let me explain how it all works. On your screen, you'll see that you've got a chat facility and you can type anything in there. You can tell us what you've had for breakfast, which module you're studying, whether you've got a cat or a dog study buddy, and any fears, concerns, worries, anxieties, tips, advice that you'd like to share with other students. Now that's your space to talk about, but I'm going to have guests in the studio today and you can ask them questions. And to do that, I'm relying on my wonderful colleagues, Kate and Michelle on the hot desk, who are going to feed in your conversations and also give you links that may come up that are relevant and answer any questions you've got also. How are you both today and how's everyone at home?
Well, I'm really excited already. We have Aberdeen, Glasgow, London, Holland. We've got a whole bunch of people from all over coming in, excited about their studies. We've already got people talking about food, Karen.
Oh, typical this time of day.
Although it's toast and green tea, I'm happy to say.
Oh, good.
And we've got students already considering how they can have study spaces both virtually and physically.
Brilliant. And Kate, you're working in the student support team, but today you're here on the chat as well. Now, the student support team will come through regularly, but they're a great source of support for students. Has it been busy over there with module start?
Yes, we've got lots of students calling up asking us for help finding their tutorials and for help just sort of getting started on their forums.
Brilliant. Now, what's the lowdown on the tutorials? Because I've seen some stuff there about students trying to find them. They're all being in the process of set up at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, they're in the process of being published. So some of them have been released and some of them will be released sort of in the next few days. So students should look on their student homepage to see if they've been released yet for them.
And how important is it to get those tutorials booked in?
So obviously it's really important to meet your tutor and talk to your tutor, and it obviously helps prepare with the assignments and things like that. So obviously it helps with your planning if you know when those are going to be taking place.
We've got lots of keen, eager students ready to get started, but don't worry if those dates are still coming through. They'll all be sorted out very shortly and you can book onto your study planners, and we'll cover a bit of that later. Now, in addition to the chat, we've got these interactive voting tools, and we've already seen that some of you are all over the world, probably with nicer weather than we've got here today, although it is quite sunny in Milton Keynes, I'm glad to say. But we're also asking you what level you're studying, which area you're studying, and how you're feeling right now. Now, to take part in these activities, all you do is you click on the widget or the interactive tool that you'd like to tell us your feelings on or vote on, and then you press the item that applies to you. Sometimes, like with our word clouds, there are 3 sections and you need to put 3 things in there, otherwise your content won't submit. So if you can only think of 1 or 2, that is absolutely fine. Just put a full stop or a little cross in there so that your results will submit and send. So let's see how everybody is feeling today. Well, there's lots going on. Organised is one of the key words here. In a happy place, no distractions, semi-organised. In the bedroom, in the office I made myself. Cluttered kitchen table, dining table, spare room, mine. Own bedroom, small desk, kitchen, private. So these are things about study spaces as well. I was going to say everyone's very focused on study spaces. So there's some great content there as well about where your study space is, and that's going to be the subject of our first conversation. Now, Rachel is a psychologist. Rachel,
Hi
welcome.
there.
And you're chair of one of the level 1 modules.
Yes, I'm on the module team for D100, so a lot of people study that, so it's a big module.
Lovely. Now, you should know a lot about study spaces in your experience teaching and also seeing students. How important is it to have a really physical study space?
I think there's a lot of preconceptions around what a study space should look like, and when people start studying they think, you know, they need to have the traditional setup of like a really nice desk and a quiet space, maybe a room separate from everything else. That's just not reality for a lot of us, actually. And what's important is that there are things that help you study, but it doesn't have to tick those traditional boxes. So it's about thinking about what works for you and what you need. So for some people it is a desk in an office. For a lot of people, as the word cloud was showing, it can be the kitchen table, it can be the end of a bedroom, it can be sitting on the bed. I mean, it can be anywhere. So a traditional setup is beyond what many people can manage or what is realistic, because we're not always going to be able to study just in our homes.
Yeah. Now, let's take another look at that word cloud, if we may, because what I noticed was that in addition to a lot of these physical spaces, people were mentioning emotions with them. I think there were words like disorganised or organised. So a lot of ideas around the space as well.
Yes. I think for a lot of people, it can be really chaotic, and for some people they actually thrive on that. You know, they feel like they're buzzing, they're busy, and that's actually a really good thing. For other people, having a way of just clearing a space and sort of that helps clear the mind ready for study. So it really depends on who you are and what works for you. And so I think some of those words that were coming up, that absolutely resonates with experiences I've had with students, and they study in different ways, and actually we're different people. And so some people need music plugged into their ears, some people can't bear having any noise at all when they're studying. And so it's about finding that thing and trying different things, and not limiting yourself to maybe what you used to do when you maybe worked at school and you were studying for exams. You know, actually we have a lot of ways of carrying our studies with us. So get creative, think about other places you can study, because it's a great way to fit in your studies around a busy life.
I've been talking to a lot of students who say things like, I really like my books when I'm studying, or I like my stationery when I'm studying. And there can be a lot of sort of really physical things that are associated with studying as well. But for some students, they say, well, I just sit by the swimming pool and I try and read this, or I look at my phone and I try and do that, or I think on the move and stuff. There's this idea about what good study looks like and what good study is. And for some people, they can really, I mean, I know myself, that you can beat yourself up thinking, well, I'm doing this because I have to, because I have no choice. I have to read this now or never. How do students manage their sort of expectations of themselves in terms of what they might say, this is okay for me, this is okay for me to have it as my study space?
Absolutely. And I think that's the key thing, is actually saying it's okay. There is no right place to study, and you need to be realistic. Where is your time? You could also think about what you're trying to do in that study time. So one of the great things about a lot of modules with the Open University is they have audio resources, video resources. So maybe a book beside the swimming pool, that might work, it might not work, depends on what space you have. But maybe you could download things onto a device and listen to it. I had one student a number of years ago who was a postman, and his best studying time was walking on his rounds, and he downloaded everything he could onto audio, and he literally studied as he walked around his post round. I know people commute. Maybe you can download all the books and things onto devices like Kindles or tablets, so you don't have to lug textbooks with you on your commute. You could actually take the books with you, but in electronic form. So there's all these ways that actually the materials are helping you be flexible in how you study. And if you really want that time sitting doing studies like that, then think about your week, think about which tasks you can do on the move, and which tasks, if that's how you want to do it at home with a table with books, that's fine too.
Michelle, how do people at home relate to that?
Well, Max says that the library in Holland, where he lives, is the best library in the world, or was voted the best library in the world. Someone who will remain anonymous likes to quiet space in the bath. We have Teresa, who says she manages to study on public transport. And Rachel has a lovely space. She has her dad's old computer in the attic. She has a sewing space on one side, so she can take a healthy break when she's stressing. But Kate's going to tell you about something else.
A couple of the students have been mentioning the OU Anywhere, so the app so that they're able to study on the move. HJ's mentioned it. And Laura's also said that she likes to study on the move with that app.
Brilliant. Now the chat is moving really fast, which is absolutely wonderful. If you're having trouble following that, you can change the interface. So there should be a little button, I think it's on the right hand side, that gives you a way to view the chat larger or smaller. So if you'd like to make it larger and follow it, then you might choose the option that's best for you. Also on the top of the chat there's a little pin button, so you can pin the chat to scroll it down. So if somebody said something and you'd like to take a moment to reflect on it, or reply to them and say, at so and so, you know, this is how I feel, then you can pin the chat and scroll it down as well. If, however, you want to just enjoy watching the programme, please do feel free to also, and it is available on Catch Up if you'd like to make the most of chatting with other students in this live time. Okay, so Rachel, this is great. We've got lots of flexibility, but I'm just wondering if some of this sounds a little bit chaotic, you know, in the sense of downloading this, downloading that. I mean, for somebody who might feel a bit overwhelmed, it could sort of be a bit, I don't know how I'm going to manage that. But like you said before, you know, a lot of the OU materials, they'll have a sort of session plan or learning outcomes or, you know, priorities for that week's study. And I think this all relates to the purpose of what your study session is, because it's quite okay to go for a walk and think about something or to sit down and highlight something or to do it. It all relates to purpose, doesn't it?
That's right. And actually that is really important, because reflecting on what you've learning is a really good way for it to actually stick and to help go into your memory. Not only can you sort of personally reflect as you walk along, but if you're somebody taking the kids on the school run, talk to your friends about what you're studying. Talking about what you're learning is a really good way to check with yourself that you've learned it, because you are putting it into your own words when you talk to other people about it. So again, talk to people, tell them about what you're studying. It helps actually them support you as a student, and it also helps you learn the things. So again, what is the purpose of what you're doing? There is time to kind of sit and concentrate and that, but all learning doesn't look like that. And I think that sometimes, maybe more in the past, school hasn't set us up well for understanding all the ways that helps learning. And little and often, actually what Kate was saying about taking a break, you know, having that sewing space nearby. You know, when I'm marking every couple of essays, I'll go and just do something, make myself a cup of tea, just go and do something else around the house, because actually taking regular breaks helps your productivity. So if you're sitting and you realise you've read the same sentence 3 times, you probably need a break, and actually going away from it will help you see the content in a new light when you come back. So there's lots of things like that that can help you take in what you're reading more or what you're learning more and engage with it in a different way.
Because in this age, I mean, we're learning every day. We're learning by what we do, whether we get the results we want. We learn in big and small ways, often in digital ways as well, when we're looking at the TV, the internet, etc. Victoria says she studies curled up with her Westie and Jackapoo on the bed. but I love this idea of the postman, and I think this sort of idea about being able to do good enough stuff, looking at stuff or skimming stuff and then going back later and maybe, you know, going through it in a lot more detail, and also relating back to that purpose and I guess knowing what's important. So within this idea then of sort of having these study spaces, be they physical or mental, if students sit down and think, this is my purpose for this is what I'm going to do, I'm going to skim this or I'm going to read my assignment guide or whatever, how might you suggest that they sort of try to position themselves so that that study session has that purpose and is good for whatever time limit it is of?
I think it's good, ideally, at the start of your week to actually plan your sort of study sessions. And again, those can be commutes, they can be lunchtimes, they can be whatever works for you. So actually having a plan helps stop it being stressful that I've got to do everything right now in this study time. So that can really help actually your mindset. I think also having a plan for the session. So look at your study guide. All modules will have a study planner. The study planner is there. It's the people that designed the module. It's their best way to break up the content into bite-sized chunks each week. So look and see what they suggested you do that week and think about which times in your week would be the best time to do the different tasks. And that can all help as well. I would always recommend having a little notebook beside you if you're sitting down to study, because there's nothing like sitting down to study to remind you of all the jobs that you've not done yet. And having a way of writing them down so they're out of your head is really useful. Anybody will tell you when they're preparing an assignment, everything becomes more attractive. The hoovering, the ironing, whatever.
Oh, no.
So having a little kind of notebook or something where you can kind of dump those ideas so that you can then, it's out of your head and you can carry on concentrating for that session that you've created for yourself. But remember those regular breaks, they're really important.
A lot of students have been posting pictures of their study spaces on the OU Facebook page, and there is something I think in there about nurturing yourself and making a space, be it in your head or on the bed or wherever it is, that can sort of gear you up mentally to be able to say, this is my study space. I've heard of people having particular clothing that they wear or rituals that they do to sort of, you know, have jelly beans on the pages or chocolate bars beside them or whatever it is that motivates them. How might students work with those ideas of almost preparing and having not a ritual as such, but a routine, I guess, that gears them up so that they able to think I'm alert now and I'm studying?
I think that's a really good point, actually. Be comfortable,
Yeah.
you know, because actually there's nothing worse than trying to do a job when you're not comfortable. So clothing is quite important, because if you feel uncomfortable, if you feel that things are tight or just sitting not right, then that makes it harder. So think about that. The most important thing is to try different things, because actually you don't know what works best for you until you've tried a few different things. So try studying in different spaces, try with music, try with quiet, try, you know, to do those different things to see what feels best and what's most comfortable, because if we can find something that works, we're much more likely to keep doing it. It's the same with every sort of lifestyle choice. But actually also let people know when it's your study time, because actually your family might know that for the next hour that room, that area is a no-go zone. So let them, so get people on board with your studies. Let them know. My mum studied as a mature student, and we had a family meeting every summer about how we were going to help her get through her next year, what jobs we were going to do to help her. And also when she was studying, she could say, okay, I need to do some work. I need, you know, so don't come asking me all those questions. Save them up, and then when I'm done, I'll answer them. And actually, so get your family on board. They'll be so proud of you for every bit of achievement you have. And so get them on side, tell them what you need, and be clear about that, because there's nothing wrong with saying, this is my time for studying and I really need it to keep me on track.
Brilliant. Michelle and Kate, how's everyone at home? I hear HJ's in the chat room as well.
Oh, welcome HJ. So glad to see you in the chat room. We've got some great things coming up. I've got a couple and then I'll hand over to Kate. We have Laurie, who says she gets disturbed quite regularly, so she's made a do not disturb sign to put up when she's studying to just let people know not to come in. And HJ actually said he makes a mind dump in his notebook, so he writes down all the things that he has to do that are not studying, gets that out of the way, and then he can start focusing on his studying. We have a lot of people talking about their pets, and I do wonder how many pets actually deserve OU degrees. We have a lot. I've seen lots of pictures of pets sitting on books, maybe not being the most helpful. And Max says he likes to start his day in the gym as it opens his mind. And Kate's got some as well.
That's very important. I was going to say we did a session last night, actually, which you can watch on the catch-up, about studying like an athlete, and we talked about the importance of exercise and food and how those could really work well to fit in with your studies. Kate?
Moira has suggested the Forest app, which I haven't come across before, but it locks you out of your phone for a bit of time so that you're able to concentrate on your studies without that distraction.
Brilliant.
And lots of people say that they need a bit of music to help them concentrate, either in the background or loud music to block out everything else that's going on around them. That was Max and Laurie that said that.
And Angela said, always read the module welcome guide. There are lots of tips and tricks in there.
There are, absolutely. This is an interesting point, because some things require absolute concentration, don't they, Rachel? And other things you can get away with, you know, having a quick look at something on the, you know, I often like to watch a video while I'm cooking or something, because I think I just need to get the gist of it, or it's something interesting.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think certainly with the audio and video, you know, they often suggest you just listen the first time or just watch the first time and then you come back to it. And that's a really easy one to just fit in, because you can, because we have all the devices and stuff, that we can just listen or whatever. It's funny when they were saying about the pets, we rescued a kitten earlier this year, and when it was first with us, it kept lying across my laptop. So really understand that one, trying to work and moving the cat yet again. So yes, we have to contend with lots of things. You know, one of my daughters loves music when she studies. I need silence. So everybody's different. And you know, actually when I was a teenager, I did listen to music while I studied. So sometimes things change. So what's worked for in the past might not now. But I think just having that key thing of what's the purpose of this time and what am I trying to do in this study session, and having that clear goal, because actually that really helps you know where you can do it, how to do it, and what's going to work best for you.
Brilliant. So that study space is all about that mental attitude, really, irrespective of where you are. It's deciding what you're doing and how you're going to do it. And I guess then maybe reflecting on whether that's worked or not. And if it doesn't, trying something else.
Yeah. Absolutely. And keep trying until you find something. And some things will work on some days and some things will work on other days. So be flexible even for yourself during your week with whatever else you are juggling, because we know our students are juggling lots of things, and so find what works for you in different spaces. Maybe if you were grabbing a lunchtime in the office to study, you might need some music to drown out office noise. Maybe at home actually silence works because you can create a more peaceful environment. Or maybe the other way around, who knows, depends on your life.
Brilliant. Well, Rachel, thank you so much. That's been really interesting. And you're coming back in our Freshers event on the 4th next week.
Yeah.
So we've got plenty more content. Today's a lot about skills and those emotional aspects of study. Next week at our Freshers event on the 4th, of October, we're going to be telling you all about the things you need to know at the Open University, about tutors, tutorials. We're going through it all then, and Rachel will be back then with me. So I hope you can join us for that too. Rachel, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right, we're going to have a short video break now, and then we'll be back for our next session on the most hottest topic, I think, for students, which is time management with Suzanne. So we'll see you in a few minutes.